Morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us this beautiful Thursday. We're really looking forward to hosting this wonderful lunch and learn session. Myself and my colleague, James Campbell, will be helping you better understand estate planning 101, why it's so important, and the different ways that you can get the resources and get the documents needed so that you can avoid that costly probate process that we're going to talk to you about today. Again, I'm Justin Pierce with Federal Employee Benefit Advisors, and this is going to be a 30-minute session. We're going to be done right at the 30-minute mark, folks. We know that you're very busy. We don't want to keep you too long. We're going to be discussing anything and everything estate planning, and we have a treat in store for you today. And we have a renowned estate planning attorney from the state of Arizona, and she'll be doing a roundtable Q&A discussion with us. And it's something that I think that you're going to get a lot of good information about. So thank you so much again for joining us today, and we'll get started right now. So I want to tell you a little bit about who I am, who we are, and what we do. And then I'll introduce my colleague and friend, James Campbell. So my name is Justin T. Pierce. I've been helping federal employees better understand their benefits and better prepare for retirement since 2008. And this is my lovely family with my beautiful wife, Rachel, and my 4 children, Allie, Zach, Lily, and Maddie. So I've been in Arizona about 39 years of my life, recently moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where I'm waving at you from right now. So I am also a fiduciary, and this is extremely important to understand because there's a lot of financial planners out there, but most of them are not financial fiduciaries. A fiduciary is a designation which indicates that I'm held to a much higher ethical and legal standard than most other financial professionals. In fact, the SEC requires that I put your needs ahead of my own and maintain no conflict of interest. And one of the ways that we maintain no conflict of interest is by remaining completely independent. So unlike a lot of advisors out there who work with Morgan Stanley or Edward Jones, companies like this, which are captive employers. So the financial advisor works directly for them. And because of that, they're very limited with what they can offer you. In most situations, your broker hasn't exposed you to some of the things that are available out in the universe of investments because they're not allowed. Whereas what we do is we work independently. So we work with the top 50 financial institutions as a whole. And then whenever we make a recommendation to you, we're bringing the top 3 companies with the top 3 options at that time. So there is no conflict of interest. And the best part is, that's how we're compensated. You don't pay us anything. We're paid by the financial institutions we represent. So I'm also a chartered federal employee benefit consultant and federal retirement consultant. These are specific designations through FINRA, the Financial Regulatory Authority, which essentially means that I'm well versed in what I need to teach folks about benefits and teach folks about federal retirement. So I've been doing this such a long time now. I was asked to co-author this book, The Informed Fed, which is about 155 pages long. And James is going to tell you a little bit more about that. I've got about 14 years of experience helping federal employees with their benefits and retirement. So if you think about it as it relates to the medical field, you can get a dental implant from a lot of general dentists. They do dental implants once or twice a week, or you can get a dental implant from an oral surgeon who does about 3 to 5 a day. So we are specialists in federal employee everything. So we know your benefits package inside and out. We also do a lot of workshops. So if you have a union that you want us to come help promote and increase attendance, increase membership, we can do a 1 hour to a full day, thorough and comprehensive educational workshop. We can do workshops for agency meetings, what have you. And then, like I had said, we already covered that I am the co-author of The Informed Fed. Finally, I am not a federal employee. No one that works on our team is a federal employee. There's not an agency that has hired us. In fact, OPM will never hire nor contract a financial professional to do what we do. That would create a conflict of interest. So we're allowed to do what we do, but we are not paid to do what we do. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to James. He's going to introduce himself to you, and then we'll get rocking and rolling.
Thanks, Justin. Hey, everybody. Great to see you all here. Look forward to getting you a lot of great information today. Like Justin said, I'm his friend and his partner. We've been working on this for a long time and really love what we do, working with the federal employees. A lot of great people out there that we get to meet and help. with their finances and helping them into retirement, understanding their benefits, et cetera. Just like Justin, I'm a husband and a father first and foremost. That's my beautiful family there. My wife, Betsy, and my kids, Bianca, Cole, and Chase. We live in Tucson, Arizona. I've lived here most of my life. I'm a native. A lot of people are transplants to Arizona, but I'm actually born and raised here. I'm also a fiduciary. I have all the same designations as Justin, so I won't spend too much time on that. I specialize working just with federal employees or their families or referrals, chartered federal employee benefits consultant, federal retirement consultant. I also helped with that Informed Fed book. I am also not a federal employee. And for today, it's important to say I am not an estate planning attorney. Neither is Justin. That's why we brought one in to be able to speak more deeply and better qualified to talk about this estate planning stuff. We have a team of federal retirement consultants. Justin and I only have so much time in our schedules. So we've taken on additional advisors to help us with federal employees. So these are their smiling faces on people that you may talk to if you end up doing a consultation with us. And we have a team of administrative staff that help us with scheduling and all that kind of fun stuff. Disclosures, a lot of times we're talking about investments. So these are standard disclosure page kind of talks about that. But today we need to talk about legal advice. Nothing said today should be taken as personal legal advice. So that's why we've disabled the Q&A for today. So there's no Q&As directly on this. But we are going to be talking to Leighton, who's a licensed estate planning attorney. We're going to be talking about things in general, but important to know that this is not to be taken as personal legal advice. You can get a free copy of the Informed Fed, the book that Justin and I helped with. Like you said, it's a great book that's just about federal benefits and retirement. And just by doing a free consultation with Justin or I or one of our advisors on our team, we get you a free PDF copy of that. These personalized consultations are really, really beneficial. You can sit through as many webinars as you want to and listen to the general information, but until you get on a call with someone that knows your benefits, that goes through all these important things one by one with you and your situation, you're really not going to understand it. And that's what we do. It's typically a 1-hour initial consult. We're going to cover your retirement incomes, your pension, Social Security, TSP. We're going to talk about your benefits, health insurance, survivor's benefit, life insurance, and help you understand what your retirement options are and how to best maximize all those for your situation. So this is something that we do complimentary for federal employees, and we'd love to connect with you if you haven't done that with us before and give you a free 1-hour educational session like that.
Thanks, James. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the second part in our 6-part Federal Lunch and Learn series. Next session will be June 8th at 12:30 Eastern. We're putting a link in the chat right now with which you can register for that. We're going to discuss FEHB and Medicare in retirement, how they work together, some things you might want to consider, how it works. We'll answer some of your questions. We'll do a little Q&A at the end. Other than TSP, FEHB is the main benefit that we get a lot of questions on. So make sure you sign up for that. Additionally, we're going to do a more robust full benefits webinar, how to maximize your federal retirement, on May 23rd at 1 o'clock Eastern. This is going to be an hour long. The last one, the Lunch and Learn, is a half an hour. This one's going to be an hour. We'll do a Q&A session at the end of that as well. So feel free to register, pass that around your agency, get some other people who might be interested in learning about their benefits and how to maximize their federal retirement. Now, I'd like to, before I introduce Leighton, I want to tell you guys that our goal today is to basically offer a interactive Q&A session with myself, James, and Leighton. We're going to be asking her some of the most frequently asked questions that we get from folks and that she gets from folks. But before that, I want you to understand it is so vital to take estate planning seriously. I always tell my clients, make sure that we get estate planning conquered before you retire. Put that in your before retirement bucket list. You not only want a will, but you also want a trust. And Leighton is going to explain kind of the why and how behind this, okay? So it is extremely important because she'll go into more detail, but the probate process is so expensive. It's timely, it's emotional, it's something that you don't want your loved ones to go through. So I'm going to let Leighton introduce herself. Without further ado, Leighton Hendrickson, estate planning attorney in Arizona.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm Leighton Hendrickson. I'm an estate planning attorney with Luce Law Group out in Phoenix, Arizona, and I've been practicing estate planning for 7 years now. And thanks for joining us.
Leighton, get ready. We are about to pepper you with all kinds of questions. I think you're up for it. Awesome. All right. What is the main difference between a will and a trust?
The main difference between a will and a trust is a last will and testament becomes a public document when it's filed with the court. A trust is never filed with the court. It always remains private. And a living will is something that takes effect on your death. Whereas, a last will and testament is something that takes effect on your death. Whereas a living trust is something that's in effect right now during your lifetime.
Great. And on that subject of trusts, we hear a lot about living trusts or revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts. Can you go down maybe bullet points of what each one does and maybe the benefits and disadvantages to each?
Sure. The most common trust, the trust that the majority of people need, is a living revocable trust. A living revocable trust, you have the ability to administer that trust. You're the trustee and trustor. So the trustor creates the trust, and the trustee is the person who is administering the trust. So when you set up a living revocable trust, you are both the trustee and the trustor. You'll also hear the terms grantor or grantee. Those are synonyms. Whereas in an irrevocable trust, you're the trustor, you create the trust, but you cannot be the trustee. So you relinquish all access and control over everything that you put in your irrevocable trust over to the trustee. And the irrevocable trust gives you that creditor protection because essentially you've transferred your assets to an irrevocable trust to which you have no access or control over. It can be used for your benefit, but you can't be in charge of the money, basically. And that's the biggest difference. Is one offers creditor protection. A living revocable trust does not give you that creditor protection, but it's great because it gives you the flexibility and control of your assets. And so that's what most people need and are looking for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So Justin had brought up the word probate and that it can be painful, expensive, etc. Could you please explain exactly what is probate and when is it required? When is it not required?
Sure, James. So first off, probate is a court proceeding that is only required when there's assets stuck in a deceased person's name. So there was no beneficiary listed on that asset. It wasn't in the name of the trust. It's just in James Campbell's individual name. And so nobody has the authority to have that asset released to them without the court appointing somebody as the personal representative. So probate's not required in all cases. It's only triggered when there's an asset stuck in a deceased person's name with no individual designated to inherit it, a POD, a payable on death beneficiary, or transfer on death beneficiary, or it's not in a trust.
So
Awesome.
basically, you're saying that when there's assets not in the name of a trust, in the name of a person, that will go through the probate process?
Correct. Or another example is, let's say that the trust is only one vehicle you can use to avoid probate, but you can still avoid probate without a trust. So if the deceased person didn't have a trust, but everything they had on it had beneficiaries, they had their spouse and then their kids as the beneficiaries, those assets will pay directly to those individuals and it won't be subject to probate. So it will only happen if, let's say, you did have a beneficiary, but it was your wife and your wife predeceased you, And so now that account is stuck in your individual name with no person designated to receive it. So the bank can't release it to anybody without the court saying, this is the person who is legally authorized to receive that asset, and then further distribute it.
Is there any like dollar limit?
There is. So that's the second element to what requires probate. So first is assets stuck in a deceased person's name with no beneficiary, not in the name of the trust, and the assets exceed $75,000 in value. Now that's in Arizona. There's probably variances among other states as to that threshold amount. So Arizona 75,000. That's aggregate, not per asset. So if you have a couple of vehicles in your individual name and you had a bank account with 20,000, then you had another kind of savings account with a few $1,000s, you could easily hit that $75,000 limit, which would result in those assets needing to go through probate.
Awesome. And last thing on this same question, because I'm sorry, I embedded multiple things in that. Typically, how long is the probate process?
Generally speaking, probate will last you anywhere from 9 to 12 months. That's kind of your standard probate on average. But it all really depends on the circumstances, how many interested parties there are, whether there's creditors, many creditors' claims, if the probate proceeding becomes contested. So all sorts of different variables come into play in determining how long of a process you're going to be wrapped up in when it comes to probate.
Okay. And then last thing on that probate, do they have access to the funds or the resources while it's in probate?
You do. So, well, to an extent. So the assets would be released to the personal representative, or also known as executor. And that executor or personal representative has the access to all the assets subject to probate. So the cash is distributed directly to that personal representative. Say the house is sold, the proceeds of sale are deposited into the estate account. Personal representative has access to that cash. They can make partial distributions to beneficiaries of some of the money, just to kind of kick over a little bit of income to the beneficiaries while the probate is pending and ongoing. But the beneficiaries, the ultimate beneficiaries of the estate, aren't going to get their full share to which they're entitled until the conclusion of the probate. And that's because creditors' claims have to be addressed. If any taxes, personal representative is entitled to compensation. So there's legal fees, accounting fees. So there's all of those things, deaths, expenses of last illness, funeral expenses. So all of those things have to be paid out first before anybody gets their money. So a lot of times it's the case where everything's just held until the probate proceeding is completed.
Great. That's a very thorough covering of the probate process. I know of a lot of people who could benefit from that information. Leighton, what special considerations should be made if someone has a child or children with special needs?
Whenever there's a child or any beneficiary with special needs, the most important thing to consider is what they're going to inherit from your estate going to disqualify them from those important benefits that they're receiving? And so that's the risk. And that's when a trust would come into play so that they aren't disqualified from those benefits by virtue of inheriting money from your estate.
Fantastic.
Could you elaborate on what special benefits are you referring to?
Any benefit that you're receiving from the government for your special needs or your condition, whether it's your child who has a disability, and so you're getting some funds from the government for that disability. If you exceed a certain income threshold, then those benefits potentially are going to go away.
Got it. So any means tested benefit for the disability income or any kind of Medicaid or some kind of a health.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's important. So if someone's named as a beneficiary on a 401k, a TSP, or a life insurance policy, do those funds have to wait for probate to finish for the beneficiary to receive those fully? I think you kind of touched on this on the probate answer, but those specifically, retirement account,
Yes.
life insurance, is there a delay on those payouts to the beneficiaries?
There is no delay. So let's say there was a house that was in a husband and wife's individual name. They both passed away. The house is worth over 75,000. It's worth, 350,000. So in order to sell that house, they're going to have to probate that asset. And on the side, they had a retirement account that had their children as the payable on death beneficiaries. That money will be paid out directly to those children without the probate having been concluded. So it's kind of separate and apart. When something triggers probate, it's specific to that asset. It doesn't require the whole estate to go through probate. So any assets that had beneficiaries on it, those aren't subject to probate or under the purview of those proceedings, and you can have access to those immediately.
Okay, great. So here's a question on TSP money. Okay, so this is going to, hit home for a lot of folks on the webinar right now. So if you've got, is TSP, since it's a qualified account, treated differently if there is no beneficiary? If this, is it treated differently than most assets, or is it the same?
It would be the same. If there's no
Okay.
beneficiary, then it would be subject to probate.
Okay, so that beneficiary designation is absolutely vital.
It's also,
So ladies,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead. Oh, you're fine.
Also important, quick public service announcement. Make sure you review your beneficiary designations. I recently spoke with a client who had his dad passed away, and dad had his ex-wife as the beneficiary of his account, and he hadn't updated that. So that resulted in ex-wife receiving, they had been divorced 15 years ago. So want to make sure those are updated.
No one wants that. That's exactly what I was about to say. So I'm glad you hit that. Folks, check your designation forms for beneficiaries on your TSP, okay? Especially if you've gone through a life event, a divorce, a widow situation. Make sure those forms are the people that you want to receive the money.
Awesome. And Leighton, let's talk about minors. I have a lot of clients that have grandchildren that they want to name as beneficiaries. Can you talk through what they need to consider with that?
So naming a minor as a beneficiary on any account is problematic because they're not entitled to legally own any assets until they've attained the age of majority. So in order for them to receive that asset, they have to have an adult step in their place to receive that asset and hold it and manage it for them until they've attained the age of majority. So that results in a conservatorship. So the child would need a conservator to receive that asset, deposit it into an account, invest it, manage it, hold it until that child turns 18. So conservatorships are very expensive. They're very cumbersome. There's annual requirements. You have to furnish the court with an annual accounting, and it's a restricted account. So once that money is paid out to that conservator, it's placed in a restricted account. And anytime you wanted to access those funds in that account for the benefit of the minor, let's say they need braces or they're going to, they need something for school, you have to get the court's blessing to make any withdrawals from that account. So for that reason, the court's interested in making sure that that money is being preserved and nobody's taking it before they're too young to be able to protect their own interests. So that's why it's so heavily monitored. But because it's heavily monitored, it's expensive.
How can someone avoid having to do a conservatorship and still be able to have that beneficiary be a minor and get what they intend?
The only way to avoid it is by setting up a trust.
Interesting. Okay.
There we
So
go.
anybody who's got IRAs out there, TSP, any investment accounts, if you've got a grandchild or a person who's under the age of 18, you can do one of two things. It sounds like get a conservatorship or a trust. So the conservatorship will kill or will take care of one issue, but the trust will help you with a lot of other issues. So even more reason to take advantage of a trust. Now on that topic there, we've only got about 5 more minutes, so maybe we only have time for one last question. Leighton, as a estimate throughout the the country, if you will, or at least in Arizona, what would a trust and a will, which includes powers of attorney, a traditional estate planning package cost from an estate planning attorney such as yourself? And then maybe what would that same set of documents cost if a legal document preparer did it?
Sure. So when you're talking about attorney's fees, I think at least in the market in Arizona, the range is anywhere from $2,000 on up to $8,000. It all depends on what you need and how many moving parts you have. So you'd consult with the attorney, they go through your assets and talk about your goals, and then they quote you a fee for the work. Whereas in a document preparer, they aren't able to offer you legal advice. However, they can, the benefit is that it is at a discounted rate. So for those, a document preparer, estate plan, I think that would probably be within the range of, if it's just a simple plan, a will, and the powers of attorney, anywhere from $500 on to $3,000 if we're talking about getting into the trust side of things.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we're just about done here, folks. So before we close out, James, you want to go over maybe how folks can get a trust either with Leighton or with anyone who's either a document preparer or an attorney? We got about a minute.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we highly encourage you to take this seriously. Estate planning is nothing that people are excited about. People don't wake up with, the butterflies. Like, yes, I get to talk about estate planning today. It's weird. And we get that. It's weird to talk about your own demise. But if you have, or someone that's gone through a messy situation with a long, expensive probate, or seeing where people don't get what they should get and they're squabbling and all that kind of stuff, you can be proactive and try to make things better for those that you care about that you're going to leave behind. So if you're in Arizona, you can of course reach out to Leighton. She's awesome. She's amazing. Get a hold of us and we can put you directly in touch with her. If you're in another state, you can obviously ask friends, family, if they have any recommendations of an estate planning attorney. You can do Google searches and obviously look up reviews and do your due diligence and verify them. You can search for a document preparer if you think you have a more simple setup. And there's even online stuff like LegalZoom. You can pay if you're more complex, you can pay their fees to get, actual advice from an attorney. So there are a lot of different avenues that you can get started on the path of getting a proper estate plan together and properly protecting yourself if you do it right while you're living, as well as the people you're going to leave stuff behind too.
Great. So folks, we're about 2 minutes out. We're going to get you out of here at the top of the hour like we promised. But before that, we're going to put a link in our chat box here. Schedule a consultation with James or I, or one of our expert federal retirement consultants. It's complimentary. We're going to project your pension, project your TSP, cover your 6 main federal benefits, answer any and all questions that you might have. We're going to get you ready and prepared for retirement. We're going to get you so much more on the edge of understanding your benefits than ever before. It's definitely worth your time. And it's less, it's an hour or less. So it's not going to take up too much of your time.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, there's going to be a survey. We'll get you a free gift. The top 10 mistakes made by federal employees, a nice publication. We always want to be bettering how we do and how we serve you, and want to know how we can serve you better as federal employees. We appreciate you and value you all. Leighton, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to help educate us.
Thank you, guys. Happy to do it.
And folks, we have one more slide here showing the next educational event. All right, so we're going to put that into the chat box. Go ahead and sign up for that. We're going to be discussing FEHB and Medicare and retirement. Again, to just piggyback on what James is saying. Leighton, thank you so much for your time. We know you do a lot of great work down there in Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, we really thank you. We're looking forward to serving you in some way.